Alright, system board is our next step, actually our last step. We've got a few things to do to remove that, but as you can see, it's pretty open and exposed here, pretty easy to get to, which is kind of nice now that we've got all the rest of the components removed. We've got a cable, a screw, and a couple of binding posts left holding it together. Cable is the cable for the serial port that's sitting over here that rides down along the battery compartment and plugs in there, so we'll want to remove that. Untuck it from its first post and then just kind of tuck it in back along the case there. We don't want to remove that completely. This is actually the final step in your disassembly manual, but you don't need to do that. It's glued to the side of the battery compartment along here, and we don't want to pull that loose, so just tuck it back out of the way. And that'll let us get to this corner of the system board. On the front edge here, we have a single Torx 8 screw that holds the motherboard side where the last two USBs are, so we'll remove that. One small screw there. And then the final pieces are on this corner. We have the binding post for the VGA port and for the DB25 parallel port. We need to remove all of those. Normally we'd use a tool like this, a nut driver of the appropriate size, to place on there and unscrew those, but as is the case with most laptops, the same thing that kept us from attaching our alligator clip there is going to keep us from using a nut driver. Even with the top half of the case removed, the bottom half is still too close to the nuts to be able to turn them with this tool. So we have to go old school and use a tool like this. Pliers not included with your kit, but we have a couple here in the lab, so you can borrow them when you need to. And what we'll want to do is we'll want to grab those hex heads and just turn them. Make sure you get a good grip. You don't want to damage anything if the wrench slips off, if the pliers slip off, and it'll take a number of turns to turn them far enough so that they'll come out. Once you get them loose, you can usually finish unthreading them with your fingers, and that's what they look like. Take off two on the side here, and then the other two for the video port. Sometimes there's not even enough room to get your needle nose pliers along the outside of these because the case is molded so close. If you have to, you can stick one part of the pliers in the binding post like this and grab it and try to turn it, but you need a pretty firm grip because if you slip, you're going to mess up the threads on the inside of the binding post as well, and then it doesn't work when you want to be able to tighten your cables down the way you should when you're installed permanently somewhere. But usually it just takes a couple of turns to get them loose, and then finger tight or finger loosen them the rest of the way. The video is the one you may have to grab on the inside. There's just not a whole lot of room there, but if you can grab it all the way around, try to do it that way. And you just need to snug them up tight when you put them back in. You don't need to wrench on them and make sure that nobody can ever get them back off again. You'll notice that on all of these screws, all of the blue Torx 8s that are all the black Torx 8s that I took out of the motherboard, as well as these binding posts, you'll see this blue thread compound on each of those. That's actually Loctite from the factory. They put that on there when they thread these screws in so that they don't rattle loose. Vibration doesn't cause an issue. Now I'm going to take all 5 of these 4 binding posts and that one Torx 8 and put those all in the same component compartment of my box here for when we have to put the system board back in later. That should be everything that holds the system board onto the bottom of the case, so we can start on the middle here and just slowly pop that up. We'll want to pop it up and then pull it away from the edge here so that these extensions here come out of the holes in the case. And there is the entire system board. That completes our disassembly. The only thing left in the entire base that we could actually take out is the little serial card up here, but there's no reason to take that out. It's not in the way of anything. But if you needed to replace one, a couple of screws on the binding posts and that slides right out. That's the end of our assembly. Now you have to put it all back together.